Welcome back once again to the Professional Lovers Channel.
We are so glad to be back after a week break, where last week was repeats, and then I think there was a special with people trying to figure out who's going to last. So we didn't really feel a need to comment on that. So we waited to this week when we can talk to you about the issues we like talking about.
And I think somewhere in the network situation, they didn't take into consideration daylight savings time.
Yeah, I don't know about your provider, but ours is really weird, and the show didn't come on until 10 when it was supposed to come on at 7. But anyway, we were able to see most of it, even through the storms here in Alabama last night. And so let's start talking about it, because if you're a subscriber, that we talk about marital issues through the lens of Married at First Sight. And if you're new, that's what we do. We've been married 28 years. This will be our 29th year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes.
And so we also sprinkle in a little bit of our own experiences, because if you're building relationships, the issues we talk about are common to most relationships. And so we're going to start with Lindsay and Mark. Ooh, what did you call them? No, you didn't call them. I saw one of the Married at First Sight couples who are still together, called them. It was either Mrs. Tornado and Mr. Volcano, or it was Mrs. Volcano and Mr. Tornado. Anyway, that's a good description of the two of them.
I did give them a name. I forgot it.
Yeah.
You'll remember it.
Yeah. So first up, I think one major thing was everybody once again talked to a friend or a family member about how things were going, because they're closer to decision day. And it seems like everybody's angst about decision day is really high.
Yeah.
Like everything they're talking about is within the confines of decision day.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it seems like with this group, we hear about decision day more often than
D-Day. Yeah.
Yeah, they just really are harping on that.
As opposed to going through the remaining time that you have leading up to decision day, giving you even more evidence of what your decision will be, versus looking forward to decision day and just thinking about where you are right now, because you do have more time. And it's not that they don't understand that, but it's like they're discounting what can still take place.
Right. And it seems like they are, instead of, as you said, focusing on what they can be doing, they're focusing on what the other person has to do for me to say yes.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on building the relationship itself. So anyway, with that, Lindsay and Mark, Lindsay, like Elijah, is all or nothing.
Yeah,
either, he doesn't love me, he doesn't show me he loves me, he doesn't do anything right, and I'm done. To the next day, okay, we seem to do best when we have fun, so let's just have fun. And the up and down just kills me.
But she's not all in the way I'm done.
Yeah.
And that's the severity of the imbalance.
Those constant threats of being done.
We'll get somebody there.
Well, it also, it tires you out.
Exactly.
If you're constantly using the threat of I'm done.
Done? Well, then be done.
Then, yeah. And that's not the way to handle it.
And it's because conflict. I did hear that in Mark's voice last night.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, okay, fine. I don't do anything right. Fine.
So, they had issues. They started off with issues and they ended with issues. Mm-hmm. They had a nice little thing in between. Mark wanted to make a schedule. He wanted to schedule the chores and all that.
And responsibilities.
And she ended up complaining that he always, wants to do these things and makes these suggestions and doesn't follow through. He's inconsistent. Mm-hmm. And one thing that annoys me about Lindsay is her penchant for trying to force Mark to do things that he doesn't want to do. Now, I understand your spouse pulling you into new
New
things
stuff.
or
Yeah.
trying to introduce you to new things or
Yeah.
trying to get you outside of your comfort zone and your
Yeah.
box.
Right.
But when someone says, thank you, but I really don't want to,
Don't keep
why are you
pressing the
insisting?
button.
It's like she treats Mark like she's his mother.
Yeah, at times. Well, yeah, most
She
of the
treats
time.
him like he's her son.
Yeah.
Like she's his mother.
We're going to do
Come
this.
on, go
for
ahead and
you.
do it. No, just dip it in there. No, dip it. No,
Just your finger.
dip it. Just taste it. Dip it. How many times does someone have to say, I don't like that. Thank you. I appreciate that, but no thank you. And I think that's part of why when they begin to argue and she reaches out to touch him.
Yeah, he's already irritated.
Like, stop.
You've already irritated him, and now you're going to grab him by making sure that he doesn't go any further, so you can just make him do what you want him to do.
All of those behaviors are like mother tactics. Grabbing the kid.
They're annoying.
So Mark may not be really. You said that you weren't sure if Mark really understood what marriage commitment meant.
True, he's been single, and
he's an only child.
And the thing about it, and it was the shopping. Where
right. The grocery shopping.
She kept asking. They went through the produce section, and as many vegetables as there are, that's how many questions she asked. Do you like this?
Vegetables
Do you like
and
this?
fruits.
Do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? And he said, no. Okay, maybe he is strictly a meat and potatoes man. Possibly. But someone needed to get it. If that is the constant question and answer situation, someone needed to say, well, I'll tell you what, let me know what you do like, or let me tell you what I like.
Yeah.
Somebody needed to do that, as opposed to literally going through a 3-minute segment of, do you? No. Do you? No. Do you? No. Do you? No. And I'm like, get off that train. How are you communicating that way? Well, if that's the means of which you do what you do. There's no communication there.
And that's evident. And that's what Mark's friend said, that the communication is terrible and they both need to give a little. And part of the key to good communication is listening, which neither of them really do. They talk at each other.
True.
Lindsay is constantly trying to defend herself, which means that if you're trying to defend yourself, you can't listen to what the other person is actually saying. And Lindsay is so sure that she is right with everything that she feels about Mark that she can't take in anything that he is saying about her.
There is no acceptance of constructive criticism whatsoever.
At all.
And I'm not saying that that's what Mark is trying to do, but she's not trying to even hear what she can potentially do to disrupt the type of communication or lack of that they currently are dealing with.
All she focuses on is that he doesn't take accountability and he doesn't do anything. He doesn't say anything about what he can do to change. But then she doesn't listen to him about what she can do to change for him. And we're bringing out our book. We haven't seen it in a while, Becoming a Professional Lover. And there's a tip in here that says, listen, listen, listen to each other.
Yeah. And
just let me read a couple excerpts. It says that as a listener, don't be quick to react to displays of frustration or anger. That's one tip, part of the tip. It also says that rather than jumping to defend yourself or provoking more outbursts, ask questions and repeat the answers to make sure you're clear about what your spouse is saying. And then the last one says, a person who feels attacked will always throw up defenses which only block one's desire to listen.
And also within that same tip, as the talker, starting with you always is not the best way to express your need. Because again, you always is accusatory.
and will always put the other person
On the
on defense.
defensive. Yeah.
Unless they're mature enough to just listen
And decipher what it is you're trying to say in the best way that you know how to say it, because it's not coming across that way.
So if Lindsay and Mark keep down this path, they definitely are not going to make it,
And that's
because
unfortunate.
they really do ignite each other's inability to communicate.
Yeah.
They both foster the lack of that skill. Katina and Elijah Wan. So the last episode we saw Elijah Wan accuse Katina, or
just get mad.
Get mad about her having a dating app on her phone. Now, thank you for the person who shared with us that a lot of people felt it was a producer thing, because it's a producer stage drama, because the phone that Elijah Wan was looking at in the car was different than the phone that Katina gave him in the house. And that might be so. We don't know. We always say that we know that there's a lot of production in Married at First Sight anyway. But that does not negate the fact that Elijah Wan is a reactor. Elijah Wan reacts and then he thinks. And there are many people who are like that, who react first, think later, and then have to come back and apologize for how they said what they said, and the conclusions they jumped to, and the behavior in dealing with the situation. And he is classic with that.
Very much so.
And the problem with that is a person can lose patience with a reactionary person.
Exactly.
Who always has to come back and apologize for how they behave.
Because that's draining as well.
Very much so. And Katina, said as much. She sees a lot of good in him. She feels like he's genuine, and that he really wants to be married. But she questioned whether or not she has the patience to deal with his constant reactionary behavior. Yeah. And in talking to his coach said, you need to stand up for yourself. Don't bottle it up, but you also need to be mindful of
what you say and how you say it.
Exactly. How it comes out of your mouth. All right. Noy and Steve. Woo! This is another one. And I spent last night, as we were watching the episode, really trying to understand Noy's issue with Steve not having a job.
Yeah.
Now, Steve talked to his friend and talked about how Noy seems to just want him to have a job, and how he has plenty of savings.
No, that's what he was talking to Mark about. When they were
okay. When he and Mark got together, right? He has plenty of savings.
Yeah. And he's contributing exponentially what she's contributing to the current
financial
situation.
Stability right now.
Right. Now, the only thing that we really don't know is whether he has conveyed to Noy exactly what his financial status is. And I'm thinking that it's pretty stable, for the simple fact that, first off, he's an engineer. He's been doing this for a while. He has created a savings or a nest egg for himself to be able to take a 3 and 4 month vacation because he just feels like exploring. Okay, he's not working at the moment. But again, whatever his status is, it's not like he's wanting for anything, and it's not like they are having to sacrifice. Case in point, the budget that Mark and what's the name was talking about, Lindsay, when they went shopping. That's not a concern. He puts together little picnics for them and enjoys. And the manner in which this came about was Noy's attempt to give him a job. He was going to be a house husband and take care of everything in the house.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
But again, I just wonder if they have had the conversation, because I believe that he could take care of her if that was his vision, if that was his focus, to be a strictly a provider for his wife and potential family. He could easily do that.
If they have had that conversation, she doesn't trust it.
Yeah.
Because she's very attached to everybody should have a job and be going to a job.
Yeah.
And instead of focusing on her need, which is financial stability, so I don't ever have to experience what I experienced growing up.
At least we think that that's her need.
That's what has been brought out before.
Mm-hmm.
She still harps on the actual job. And, on one hand, I somewhat understand, because you don't ever really like to see a person, especially a man,
able-bodied individual in your home,
especially a man, doing nothing,
not getting up and doing something.
Yeah, even though he might be financially able to do that, it feels weird to see a man do nothing.
True.
Especially for a long period of time.
Any period of time.
Because usually if you're an entrepreneur and you're working at home, you're working. I work at home. I get up, I get dressed most of the time. Even if I don't, I still go to my office. I sit in my chair, mm-hmm. and I'm on my computer and I'm doing work. Okay?
This office.
Yeah. So I'm still working. So if he's not doing anything, I somewhat understand how that would be an issue. But it doesn't mean that he becomes the house husband to clean behind you every day, do all the cooking, all the cleaning. And she insists that he doesn't do as much as she does. And then he insists that she doesn't do as much as he does. Did I just say the same thing? They're both saying you don't do enough in the house.
Right, because she was relinquishing all household duties. He wanted to share them. And she was like, no.
Because I work.
Like, yeah. Ooh,
Once again, I work at home. So yes, I'm here. I mean, I have typically done most of the cooking because that's just my gift. But,
and she does it well.
We've always had kind of this rule that whoever cooks doesn't clean. So, I stop my business work to make sure that, lunch is prepared for him and my son when they come home from work. And then, but there is a sharing of household duties because we all live in the house.
True.
And we all mess up the house, which means we all need to help clean the house.
Right.
So, that's only fair. It's not just one person who's messing up the bathroom or who dirties the floor or who wears clothes and puts them in a dirty clothes. I mean, it's only fair that everyone who lives in a house contributes to maintaining the house.
Exactly.
Regardless of what your
other responsibilities are.
Yeah. Now, unless if your spouse works, like a nurse or some third shift job where they're working from, 12, 11 o'clock at night to 8 in the morning or something like that. But they're still going to contribute in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So that argument is really, that's a hard argument to swallow. And then Noy says, if I say yes on decision day, I don't want to live together right away. And he's like, what?
Everybody probably said, what?
We were all saying, what? I'm not comfortable combining our lives or our...
What is marriage?
That doesn't fit what marriage is. When you get married, and Steve tried to say that, we're married. We're not just living together. We're married.
Personally, I think that this is another level of her immaturity. Like when the cooking situation was, she just went totally ghost and she left.
Mm-hmm.
This is a situation as opposed to expressing her concern or apprehension about combining our different personalities and characteristics and what we're having right now in dealing with, my thought of you having to do some type of labor, work, job, something, and me thinking because you're not doing anything or I don't see you doing anything that you should be able to take care of the home since you're home all the time. You know, and again, I think these are all conversations that she's having inside her own head, but she chooses not to express it with him.
She posts on social media,
Which is another reason that, well, it causes major question marks. It causes question marks in Steve's mind. Mm-hmm. Because you choose to express it, you choose to say something about it, but it's like a backhanded remark that I have to go find from some other source.
Or I have to figure out, are you talking about us or are you just talking about things in general? Because they seem to relate to what we're going through.
And if you say that it's not, I'm not really believing you.
Yeah.
Because like what Patty just said, it seems to relate to our situation. So.
And so when Noi was talking to her sister,
her sibling,
it came out that she had moved to Boston for a relationship that didn't work out, and it took a lot out of her to try to rebuild her own life, which is the foundation of why she's saying she doesn't want to combine her life with Steve's right away. But that is a surefire way to contribute to your marriage falling apart.
Sure.
Excuse me.
Or not developing into anything else other than what it is right now.
Right. All right. Our last couple, Jasmina and Michael. They were very calm in this episode.
Well, I see progression.
But I still see them stuck in the friend zone.
Yeah, but just like what you were talking about when you first started off the show, talking about looking at the deadline date. Mm-hmm. They're both conscious of, well, what are we going to say or what's going to happen when that time comes? Mm-hmm. You don't know because you haven't gone through it yet. And personally, I think that there has been growth in their communication styles. Mm-hmm. I think that there's even been signals, at least they appear to be signals of comfort. Mm-hmm. Okay, I can't even know. I'm not even going to call it intimacy, but comfort.
But the intimacy is not there.
Well,
and she says the romantic feelings are not there.
Well, but there was something that she did.
Right.
When they were cooking.
That could be an indication of being able to be sparked. But
right. When they were cooking, and it was Steve's turn to cook. Mike's turn to cook, and he made lasagna rolls. Mm-hmm. Something different, but he was pouring stuff out of a jar.
But he was at the stove stirring.
And she, as a tall girl, doesn't necessarily have to get on her tippy toes to look over his shoulder, but she looked over his shoulder at the oven as opposed to being on the side of him looking at the oven.
Which meant she was, physically on him, on his back, kind of, yeah.
And to me, that's an indicator. And you actually remarked,
and I said that was a perfect time for him to turn around and just peck her.
Slobber. Hey,
not slop her.
What the hey?
Peck her.
Hey.
She probably would recoil with a slob down.
To get past the pecking.
No, they're still in the friend zone.
So
just a peck would have, just
they're married.
A little peck on the mouth, or would have been a nice indicator that well, I like feeling you on me.
I've heard that some women like men that they take charge. So he could have just turned around and slobbed her down, and she might have liked it. Just saying.
Anyway.
Next.
Hopefully, because I really think they could do well together.
Too.
But they gotta get out the friend zone, and we'll see. if that can be sparked. But it was cute to watch him trying to teach her to drive. And I said, I don't know if it's worse to try to teach a kid how to drive or an adult how to drive.
I think it would be more difficult for an adult, but they got through it.
They got through it.
They only killed one cone.
And that was really cute. So there we go. There are our recap of all the couples and where they are right now. And I hope that Noy and Steve and Jasmine and Michael, I think, have the greater chance of making it if they can
get out of their own way.
Yeah. Lindsay, Mark, no. Katina, Lajuan, I doubt it, but we'll see. But with that, we will leave you to do your own thing till next week when we come back with another recap. And until then, we tell you to stay safe and peace.
Enjoy.